Hey everybody, welcome to World Storytelling Cafe. My name's David Thompson. I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas. Now I've got two stories for you today. One is from East Texas and the other one is from the Appalachians. And it's pronounced Appalachia, not Appalachia. Now these stories are going to be told in accent and dialect, so listen carefully. The first one I'm going to tell you is Hannah and the Dog Ghost. It's an East Texas African American ghost tale. And most everybody has their own ways of telling it, and this is the way I tell it. There are two things you need to know. One, who the Fiddler Man is. The Fiddler Man is this character that goes and steals your chillin', and you don't see him anymore, and it doesn't matter how much you look for him. And secondly, a root doctor. A root doctor is what many people in the United Kingdom and in Europe will call a cunning man, but over here in the Appalachians and the States and all that, we call them conjure men. So this is the story of Hannah and the dog ghost. Oh, and a dog ghost is a difference. A ghost dog is the ghost of a dog. A dog ghost is the ghost in the shape of a dog. Remember that. It's very, very important. So, here we go. I hope you enjoy it. This is Hannah and the Dog Ghost. It was a hot, nasty July day. It was one of those days where the sun just beats down on you. There are no clouds in the sky. There's no breeze, and the sweat just sits there on your upper lip. Now, Miss Hannah, you heard about her. Her husband was killed in that horrible sawmill accident. You read about it in the paper. Well, anyway, Miss Hannah lived in a group of sharecroppers, and they had a common garden. Now, also, it has been said that during this highlight of the summertime, the Fiddler Man done come around. So people were always watching the chillin', because you never know when you might lose them. Well, anyway, it was on one of these days that Miss Hannah was out chopping in the garden along with her friends, and people were talking about the Fiddler Man, and she got real worried because she had a little 6-year-old boy, James Jr. You've seen him, cute as he could be. The type you just want to pinch his cheek. He's so cute. So she went back to her house, and she saw James, and she saw her friend, the white lady, Miss Sarah, who lives right across the road from her. And she said, Miss Sarah, you my good friend, and I have to work in the gardens. I'm just wondering, could you watch my baby James while I'm gone? And Miss Sarah said, sure, no problem, Hannah. You just go on. I'll get him something to eat. He can play in the front yard. He can take a nap when he wants to. I'll take care of him, don't you worry. So Miss Hannah went back to the garden, and she was chopping away, and she was talking to the people, and she was sweating. Oh, Lord, she was sweating something fierce. Well, all of a sudden, Miss Sarah come running down the road. Miss Hannah, hey, I got to talk to you about your baby James. And Miss Hannah dropped her trowel right there and ran to her and says, what is it? Miss Sarah said, I done heard the Fiddler Man. I heard him playing in the background that music, that evil music from his violin. And I went running to the front door, and your baby James was not there. Don't know what happened. Well, Miss Hannah let out a scream that you could hear from here to Atlanta, Georgia. She fell to the ground and beat her. Oh, my baby's done gone. Oh, where am I going? And Miss Hannah was there. She was just crying and sobbing. And Sarah went down on her knees, and she had to slap her to get her attention. She said, now you look, I know what we're going to do. We're going to go see Dr. John, the root doctor. Now, you know, these root doctors and these conjure men, they live on the outskirts of town. So, Miss Sarah took Miss Hannah by the hand, and they walked over to Dr. John's place, and they done knocked on the door. Come in. Y'all come on in now. So they walked in, and they told Dr. John what had happened about her baby James being taken by the Fiddler Man, and she's got to get him back. Dr. John thought for a long time, and he stroked his beard, and he said, this is what you got to do. You got to go get some St. John the Conqueror wort for the power of God. You got to get some mimosa blossoms for the tears of the angels. And Miss Hannah, you go down to your husband's grave and you get some of the dirt off of that grave and you tell him that you need his strength. And you put all of this in a piece of white cloth from a dress ain't never going to be worn. And you put it all together, you tie it up. You get yourself a satchel, you put in some food, you put in your Bible, you put in some water to drink, and you put in that pouch also. And you walk all the way beyond the sunset. That's what you got to do. Well, Miss Hannah thanked Dr. John a whole bunch of lots. They walked back to Miss Sarah's house, and Miss Sarah said, Hannah, you know I ain't never going to get married. And I got this pretty white wedding dress, and you can have a piece of it. Let me go cut. No, Miss Hannah. I'm going to give you that piece of cotton dress so you can make your pouch so you can go get your baby James. So that's what Miss Sarah did. She cut off a nice piece of white cloth from that wedding dress, and they put the St. John the Conqueror work for the power of God right in it. And they put some of the mimosa blossoms for the tears of the angels. They put that in there too. And then Miss Hannah went down to her husband James's grave, and she knelt down and she said, James, honey, our baby done been took by the fiddler man, and I gotta have some of your strength, so I'm gonna take some of the dirt off of your grave, baby. I love you, and I'm gonna get him back, I promise. So she took some of that dirt off her husband James's grave, and she put it in that pouch, and she tied it all up. She went back to her house and she got a satchel and put it over her shoulders. And she put her Bible in there. She got some food and she put that in there. And she got a bottle of water and she put that in there. And she got that pouch with the magical herbs. And she put that in there too. And she set off, walking west to where the sun sets. And as she was walking, she would hear a patter, 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 patter. And she'd stop. And that noise would stop. She'd take 1 or 2 steps, patter, patter, patter. And she stopped. And she turned around. And there behind her, sitting down, was this big old yeller dog. And she looked at that yeller dog. And that dog looked at her. And she looked in its eyes. And I tell you, those eyes were mighty familiar. Well, anyhow, Miss Hannah's kept on walking, and that dog walked behind her, patter, patter, patter. And when Miss Hannah would sit down, that dog would sit down. And when Miss Hannah had something to drink, she would put some water in its hands, and that dog would drink the water out of her hands. And when she had something to eat, she shared it with that dog, and it would eat also. And when she lay down to take a short nap to rest, that dog would sit there and guard her to make certain that she was okay. They kept walking. They kept on walking. And they got to that point, right where the sun done set. And she stepped over. Everything was gray and dingy, smelled musty. But she knew she was there, but that dog didn't follow her. It didn't come across that with her. So she figured she's going to have to go and get this baby back by herself. She kept on walking, and she walked, and she walked, and she turned the corner, and there right in front of her was this big old 2-story ramshacklified shack. She figured that might be where the fiddler man lives. She thought maybe that's where my baby James is. So she went up and she called, "Yoo-hoo! Yoo-hoo, the house, hello? Anybody there?" Total quiet. She went up to the steps, up to the front porch. Reet. And she got up on the porch. "I say, hello, anybody to the house?" No answer. There's an old screen door in front of her. She reached over and she carefully took the handle of that screen door and she stepped in the house, and the door The light in that house was dim. You could see the dust motes floating in any light. She stopped. What was that she heard? Mama, Mama, where are you, Mama? Mama. That was her baby. Her baby James. It was coming from upstairs. She found that staircase. And she went up those stairs. She came to the landing. She looked to her left. And she looked to her right. In a long hallway. And all the doors on both sides, the left and the right, all the doors looked exactly alike. Mama, Mama, please come get me, Mama. She had to listen. Where was that voice coming from? Which one of these rooms is her baby in? So she tried each of the doors. She went to the left. All of them were locked. She turned around and she went to the right side of the hallway. The last door she done tried was unlocked. She stepped into that room. And in that room was an old dustified bed, old iron bed with an old quilt on it. And there was a dresser with a nice mirror. Mama, Mama, where are you, Mama? And she looked in that mirror. And who do you done think she saw? She saw her baby James. He's inside that mirror. And then she remembered. She pulled out her Bible. She opened it to the 23rd Psalm, and she pulled out that pouch of herbs, and she started, "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in the green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul." And she threw it. Shattered that mirror. Mama, come get me. And she reached inside that mirror. And she pulled her baby out and held him in her arms. "Oh, my baby, I've come to get you. You're going to be safe." Mama said, "Mama, Mama, he's coming. I can hear him. I know he's coming." What's that? "Who is there in my house? Why have you come to get me? I'm going to come and you'll never see your child again." She heard that voice coming from downstairs. How was she going to get out with her baby? Oh, Miss Hannah had to think. She had to think real fast and real hard. And she looked around the room. There was this one window. And there was that bed. And there was that quilt. So she took that quilt off that bed. She said, "Baby, hold on to your mama. I'm going to wrap us in this quilt and we're going to jump through that window." So she did. Her baby held on to her. She took that quilt and she wrapped it around her, dusty as it was. And she looked around and she said, "All right, honey, here we go." She dived through that window. Boom, 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 boom. Boom! Fell on the ground, the baby on top of her. "He's mine. You can't have him. He's mine. I'm coming to get him. I'm coming to get him. He's mine." And Miss Hannah, she unwrapped that quilt and she held on her baby and she hoisted up her skirts and she done took off running. "He's mine. You can't have him. He's mine. I tell you, he's mine." And all of a sudden, and Miss Hannah stopped and she looked around and there was that yeller dog between her and the fiddler man, and that yeller dog looked at her real quick and those eyes said, "Baby, you better get out of there." And that dog turned around. And Miss Hannah just kept on running and kept on running and they kept on running. And those sounds, they went into the background to the point where she couldn't hear them anymore. And on those nights, when the moon is full, Miss Hannah is sitting in her rocking chair, holding her baby, rocking back and forth. She remembers. She remembers really well. And she can't help but think to herself, those eyes were mighty familiar. Oh, and as for the fiddler man, he's not seen around them parts no more. All right, now that's the fiddler man. That's Hannah and the Dog Ghost. I hope you enjoyed it. I know there was a little glitch there, but I don't think it did too much. Now we're going to get to the second story, and this one's totally different. I have to explain something to you. In the mountain countries and in the small towns in the south, they have what's called dinner on the ground, which is all these people from all these different churches get together and they bring all this food and they have an all-day preaching and singing and all this other good stuff. So that's what dinner on the ground is. And a pudding is the type that was cooked in a big old black kettle over the fire. It's like a pudding, but it's cooked pudding. You know what I'm talking about. So this is the pudding that stopped the preaching. Lord, child, let me tell you. There was going to be dinner on the ground. The fire-baptized predestinarian two-seed of the Spirit Baptists, the Holy Blood of God Church of Christ, and the Dove Springs Tabernacle of the Mighty Man all got together, and they was going to have dinner on the ground and all-day preaching and revival and homecoming, and it was just going to be the biggest thing. Now, I got to tell you about one family, the McCoy families. Nicest people you done ever met in your life. Just really, really nice people. And Miss Sarah McCoy, the mama, she was a great cook. Everybody liked her food. So she was going to bring her famous pudding, the type that she had to cook in that big crock pot kettle over the fire. And everybody was going to just really have it because there was going to be a contest about who had the best pudding. So she wanted to be the one who won. So she would be cooking all day and stirring that pudding and stirring it. And it was to that point where she could simmer it. She put the top kettle on it. She went to get herself ready to put her hair into curlers and get herself all prettified. But one thing is, she forgot to put some salt in there. Well, her hands was all full of hair curlers and pins, and her hair was all down, and she was standing right in her slip. So she called out to her husband, Harry, I need some help. What you want, Ma? Harry, I forgot to put salt in the pudding, so would you go and put some in there? Ma, I don't know. Harry, just put some salt in the pudding. So what he did, he come in the house. It was a big old pot, a big old lot of pudding. So I guess it's going to have a big spoon of salt. And he couldn't find anything, but he found a ladle. You know, the big ones like this. And he got a ladle of that salt, and he made certain his hands didn't burn, and he took that top off that kettle, and he put it in, he stirred it up, and went on about his business. Sarah didn't know. So she called to her son, Harry Jr. What is it, Ma? Harry Jr., I forgot to put salt in the pudding. Would you go, Ma? I don't know anything about cooking. Harry, all you have to do is take a spoonful of salt and put it in the pudding and stir it, and everything will be okay. Please do it for your mama. So he did. And he found that big old spatula spoon. And he said it's a big pot of pudding, so got to have a lot of salt. He put in a whole nother one. Stirred it up, put the kettle back on, went about his business. Well, Sarah didn't hear anybody say that they had done it. So she called to her daughter Elvira. Elvira! Elvira! I hadn't heard nothing from no men folk. Would you go put some salt in the pudding? Mom, my hands is full of axle grease because the witch woman said to get rid of these warts, I couldn't wash my hands until after I saw the moon over my left shoulder. Elvira, all you have to do is to get a spoon and put some salt in the pudding. That's all I'm asking. Do this for your mama. Yes, ma'am. So she went down to the kitchen. This big old pot, lots of pudding. She saw that big old spatula spoon. She thought to herself, well, I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I can use this spoon. So she too took a whole spoonful, whole spatula spoonful of salt, put it in, stirred it up, put the top back on, and went back. And sure enough, that night she washed her hands off and those warts were gone. Well, that pudding had to cook all night over the coals. The next day was the big dinner on the ground. Lord, everybody was going to be there. So the McCoy family packed up their buckboard, and they put that big old heavy kettle of pudding on the buckboard, and they all took on off to the church. And I tell you, you should see the people all dressed up in their Sunday go-to-meeting clothes, just talking, and there's Miss Jenkins. You don't want to hear anything about Miss Jenkins because she'll let everybody know your old secrets. One of them, their biddies that always talks. And there was the James family, very nice people, very nice, very proper. So everybody went into the church, and oh Lord, there was singings, and there was preachings, and there was testifyings, and there was healings, and then there was lunch. Everybody came out of the church, and there were long boards, and there was food, and there was so much food, those boards were sagging in the middle. Sagging, I tell you. Everybody was just looking at all the fried chicken, all crackly fried chicken, and the corn, and the peas, and the rice, and the gelatin salads. Oh yeah, gelatin salads, you gotta have those. And then everybody was just having a grand old time eating. And it was announced, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to judge the puddings and see who had the best. I'm going to ask the three preachers to come up here, and they're going to be the ones who are going to test it. So the three preachers came. And each took it. Oh, that was quite nice. That's quite nice. I like that one. Oh, but I want to get to the Lady McCoy's. I heard hers was the best. So each one of the judges took a taste of each one of the puddings, and they got to Sarah McCoy's pudding in that big old crack pot, big old black kettle. They took the top off. Oh, it smelled so good. All sweet and pretty-fied and just lovely. So each took a spoonful. Oh, dear. Ooh, and their faces puckered up, worse than if you had done bit into a green persimmon. And they couldn't speak, their lips were like this. Ooh, and no matter water was going to make them unpucker. So, it was canceled for the rest of the day. And people was like, they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what had happened. So the McCoy family, Miss Sarah McCoy, she went over and she looked at her pudding. She said, can't be my pudding, but let me taste it and see. Took a little bitty spoon and took a little bitty bite, and oh my Lord, Lord have mercy, Jesus, Mary, and the barnyard animals. That was so salty. So it was her pudding that stopped the preaching. So they loaded all back up on their bookboard, and they went on home. And that night they were sitting around talking about what happened. And each one of them told Miss Sarah, well, it was a big old crock, and it had a lot of pudding, and I figured it had to have a lot of salt, and Lord, I done ruined the preaching. Then they all started laughing. They laughed so hard they couldn't stand it. And as far as I know, to this very day, they're still laughing. So that's the pudding that stopped the preaching. I want to thank every one of you for listening. And if you look down, there's a little hat down there at the bottom of the screen or below my pretty face. And you can put a tip in there if you want to, or if you can. But if you can't afford nothing, give your loved ones a hug or call someone up and tell them you love them. Because we live in strange times and we got to have some different ways of dealing with people. Thank y'all much. Hope to talk with you later. Bye.
Young and old, you've been listening to a wonderful storyteller. And if you really liked it, if you've got a little money, doesn't have to be a lot. A little goes a long, long way, as they say. And you can afford it. Just pop it into the storyteller's hat, because right now they're not earning at all, so whatever you've got, it will be appreciated. And I'm sure you parents will have set a good example for your children. Oh, it's lovely. I'm only joking. But it will keep some of us going through this crisis. And those of you that are all self-employed out there will know exactly what I mean, and you're probably exempt.